Hello everybody, welcome to GRS Season 3, Round 1 for the F1 division around Bahrain. My name's David and I'm joined by Zeke Lapidge. Should be...
Good evening, everyone. My voice is a little croaky at the moment and I may cough because I'm not feeling too great, but all's good in Love War and League Racing.
Fantastic, and hopefully all will be good this evening as well. I quite like the idea of having a sprint race on a season opener, I can't lie. For those who've been watching the other two divisions, I think we'll probably agree. We've seen quite a lot of action and we hope to see even more tonight as well. Plenty of chance for these drivers to get their season off on the right foot.
Yeah, we made the choice of a round 1 sprint. Thought it made it a little spicier, and obviously nobody wants to start the season with 0 points. So even if you come a little unstuck in one of the races, you do have that second chance to score something and get off the mark early. But we are just loading into quali, so I think probably the smart thing to do before everyone piles out and starts doing their laps is to go through a quick run through of the grid. For this season, there's several new names in here, along with quite a few returning drivers. So if we just work our way down the pit lane, starting with the Mercedes boys, we've got a couple of Polish drivers. The returning Karol Wodzinski, who was in Mercedes last year, along with Jacob Adamczak, who I believe was his race engineer a few times last year, and he's moved up into a race seat for this season, so that should be interesting to see how he compares with Karol.
Speaking of Adamczak, he's doing a scouting lap out on the intermediate tyres, so yeah, we may as well, seeing as he is our leading choice, or is he? No.
No. I believe the Red Bull of Owen is first man out, I believe, or Will,
this is
potentially.
Will.
Yeah, so Will is retaining his Red Bull seat from last season. We have the option for any drivers to do that. If they were a full-time driver in a team the season prior and they remain in the same tier, they can choose to keep that seat with certainty, just to make it a little bit more consistent on the grids. So Will is retaining his place in Red Bull, and he's joined by the Dutch driver Owen Heinen, who was racing here last season, and has moved into that second Red Bull seat. Hopefully it won't be a poison chalice for Owen, as it tends to be in real F1, although Checo's done quite well in there the last couple of years.
Definitely seems to be. Albeit, I want to talk about the controversy, but Red Bull buried that one quite a bit. But in any case, objectively speaking, despite narrowly missing out on a 1-2 this season, Red Bull, as well as Checo, have done a very good job working as a team. So it'll be very interesting to see if that translates into the F1 division here.
Yeah, next guys down the grid for the Bright Red Scuderia team. We have two of the big hitters from our sign-up period, from our time trials. So we've got Ian Bilbas, who was actually top out of all of these drivers for the sign-ups. In one Ferrari, he's currently taken over the lead seat for this race at least. And his teammate will be Martin Ivanov, who is one of our PlayStation drivers, taking advantage of GRS becoming crossplay here for Season 3. So these guys look like they may be pretty tricky to topple in the constructors. I believe Martin was 4th in signups as well, so a very, very strong Ferrari duo. And we know Ian from other leagues. He does drive on controller, but is incredibly quick.
He's on
especially
pad?
for Ocon. He's on a pad.
My word.
Yeah, so someone with Ian's pace on a controller is frankly ridiculous. Owen Heinen is also on a controller. I'm not sure if anybody else in the tier is, but Ian's pace especially is cracked as a controller player. As a fellow controller player, I have no idea how he does it.
Yeah, likewise.
So ordinarily in McLaren, we would have returning from last season, finished second place in the driver's standings, Matthias Posch, but he is unfortunately unable to make it today. So we've got a couple of reserves lining up in the McLaren team, which is Season 1 Drivers' Champion, Jelly Giesink, who is returning here. He won that title with Red Bull, but he's in the McLaren, the papaya orange car today, and is joined by Quil Pavlakovic, whose voice you may have heard as they are our Tier 3 commentator. So you may have heard them alongside Luke on Monday. So get a chance to show what they can do on track instead of just watching everybody else fall off it.
It's going to be fun. It's money where your mouth this time. Is Will starts us off with a 28.9. Not a bad first lap.
That's a pretty good banker for the Red Bull driver. That actually matches, I think, more or less to the 1,000th. Matches the pole time from F3, so that's not a bad time at all. And Ryan Ivanov, as we were saying, Ferrari looking pretty good. Beaten by Luke Mills, who we will get onto. But yeah, mine with that 28.5, that's about a match for the F2 pole time.
Yeah, Luke Mills goes even faster.
Just how quick these guys are. Yeah, Luke toppled that. But moving on down the grid, we will take a look at the Alpine boys next, which is Darius Bodian and Furquan Imtiaz, our first teammate selections for the season. Both new drivers to the league, opted to have each other as teammates, which gave them priority on a seat a little higher up on their choice. So how we sorted out who went where is drivers could retain their seats, then drivers who were full-time last season and completed at least 75% of races got in some of their more preferred seats, and then drivers who wanted teammates, we found places that they could fit nicely where they could be together with somebody that they know. As Ian jumps to the top of the times with the 28.1. So that's a big lap from the pad man himself. Jumping up to a 28.1. That's a great time so far.
I'm just looking at Lucas Bauschke in the Aston Martin. He's managed to go below a 1 minute 7 on the second sector split, so it'll be very interesting to see what he can convert that into. Not too much time to find on the final.
Yeah, so it's a 28.9, but that having that second sector split in our heads now is going to make it a little easier to compare with the likes of Ian and Luke up at the front. For when everybody gets around and does their second laps.
Absolutely.
The only person yet to set a time is last year's F2 champion Hugo Nilsson, so I think maybe we should look at AlphaTauri next, where it is going to be Hugo along with chosen teammate who is also retaining his AlphaTauri seat from last season, Kevin Kovacs. So Hugo jumping up a tier and getting in with his mate Kevin in the AlphaTauri team, as Hugo puts it 13th, but bear in mind, he is moving up a tier, so he was below a lot of these drivers last season. He's the only driver to make that jump. The rest of the grid has been filled out with brand new talent, along with a lot of the F1 grid from last year returning. A couple of drivers have moved in the opposite direction, so Hugo really showed some pace to get up there and actually do a decent job, as Jacob Adamsack has unfortunately left the session, so let me see if I can get him back in somehow.
I was about to comment that he's really not that far off in terms of his scouting lap on the intermediates. Just goes to show just how powerful these tyres are in this game.
Yeah, a little ridiculous.
Just a bit.
They're
currently not last. I very much suspect that Johnny Foss will be putting in a bit more of a punchy representative lap time than that one.
Most likely, Johnny's pretty quick. So where were we on?
We just got to AlphaTauri.
I had. Now, why can I not invite people?
Oh, this isn't good.
I may have to do it in game. Hang on, give me a second. Me trying to do it through Steam. Maybe why it's not working.
Love yourself. While I leave that to you, I'm just going to find someone to get on board with here. Is Owen Heinen on a lap, or is he on a cooldown? What's he doing? Aha, fantastic. Heinen on a lap just gives us a good chance to give us a bit of a track tour this race weekend in qualifying. Owen Heinen braking at about the 100 meter board, getting it nicely hooked up, not quite running over the apex. You don't want to do on turn 1. Takes exit 2 and 3 very nicely. It's an important exit, runs you all the way up the DRS, second straight into turn 4. Bit of a tricky one to get right. You really want to maximise the track width and then just duck into the apex. Unfortunately, he's spun it. Which is less than ideal. Really just getting his value from that first set of soft tyres. Probably just preserving a set for the race if there's an early or late safety car somewhere. But in any case, at least he's got that banker time to sit on if that happens throughout the qualifying session. Currently the only other person who I don't suspect is on a lap, but very well could be, is the Aston Martin of... I will get there eventually with names. Leaf. Ah, there we go, George Power, I believe. He's actually gunning for a bit of a quicker time than what he has at the moment. 3-lap-old soft tyres won't be your best friend for it, but in any case, I'm sure they've had a couple of cooldown laps in between their hot laps. Battery's not as charged as he'd like it to be. That will punish him on these back straights. But a oddly placed McLaren just looking to get out of the way there. I believe that is Pavlakovic. They've had a bit of a moment. They've managed to get themselves back on the racetrack. Leaf going down now to tricky left-hander. It's always testing the wing levels and the rear tyre grip at this stage of the lap. Puts it up very nicely to the inside there. Got a tenth and a half in hand as he goes through the last couple of corners. Not too much time really to find in these in this sector, but in any case.
Yeah, you can lose a huge amount of time down here, but you can't really gain all that much if you've already had a pretty decent final sector. And he is kind of low on the battery, so he's probably lost a lot of time down there. Yeah, he actually lost 2 tenths in that final sector with the long straight between turns 13 and 14. But moving our way down the grid, unfortunately, having to take a little break out of that to resolve some connection issues, as George has had a bit of a moment at turn 2. Which is my favourite place to spin on this track, actually, now I've turned traction control off.
I was going to ask.
It's horrible.
I was going to ask.
But I did some time trial laps before on other tracks, and the traction was basically bidding me into a wall, so I was like, I'm going to turn it off and see how that feels. And I was like, actually, yeah, I can now take this way faster, and then tried to put it back on again, and I can't drive with it on now. So I've got to keep it off.
I think that's the main difference if we are...
That's a me.
If we're talking about assists, I think it's the main difference between last year's game and this year's game is obviously the handling model. Although we're using the same engine as last year's game, the handling model has been reworked and the car handles a lot more stable under higher speeds because of the ground effect. You push more air through the underside of the car and it keeps the car planted. The faster you go, the more downforce. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. The car sticks better. That doesn't really lend itself all too well in lower speed sections, and the traction control, because I run it on medium, you can't really mash the throttle. It will just spin you anyway.
Yeah, we've actually got an iron in the wall, by the way, which may need a little check upon. So I'm just going to ride on board.
I can't even check.
I'm going to ride on board with Ken, but he's binned it. So it's not going to find him. So yeah, so it will be Martin Ivanov, just to see... Oh, it's already disconnected his car. And actually, everyone's leaving the session, so I wonder if Luke's called for a restart. Potentially there's DC call, lobby settings, or something like that.
May well be indeed. Yes, as people are leaving the session in quite some mass now.
Okay, so yeah, so we are restarting the session. Oh, right, okay. So, Luke accidentally messed up the settings and forced ABS off. But we don't enforce any assist restrictions in GRS, it's all about your pace. So, I wondered why I got that message from one of the Alpine drivers saying, I think there's been a mistake, we both use ABS. And I was like, no, ABS is fine. Like, there's no assist restrictions. And he's like, yes, but I can't use it. I was like, oh, right. That makes a lot of sense.
So it looks like we'll be voiding this qualifying session off, which is fine.
Whether we're going to jump to a one-shot with just 5 minutes left, I'm not sure. Although it wouldn't really be representative, so we may just be going again and delaying slightly. But we have already had 2 red flags, so this is fine this week. But anyway, so while we wait for this. So moving down the grid to Aston Martin, we have new driver Lucas Bauschka. Who is looking pretty quick. He had some really good time trials and has turned up to some of the social races and really showed his pace in that. And second in that seat we have George Parr at the moment, who is one of our reserves but is looking to grab that full-time seat. We did have another driver in there, but I can't remember what happened to him. He may have just said that he can't race. I honestly can't remember.
I need to have a look at the stream. It's black screen me for some reason. It's never good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still watching some of the cars just cruising their way around. So next on the list, we would probably have Alfa Romeo, which is another one of our teammates who are again both looking pretty quick. Signed up kind of last minute. which is Kyron Chef and Drak Zlok, I believe is how you say his name.
I believe so.
It's like Lock, but there's a Z in front of it, so, you know. It may be silent and we just have Lock and Chef, which would be kind of cool. But I think it probably isn't one of our Eastern European drivers. And then, who haven't we mentioned? Haas and Williams, so the teams that would traditionally be at the back of the grid, potentially will not be here in ERO F1. So, for Haas, we have a couple of new drivers coming
I
up.
think you mean GRS, my friend.
Oh, did I say? Yeah, that was me reading Liam's name. Yeah, that was me reading Liam's name. Blame Liam. Yes, so Liam Cross is one of our Haas drivers, along with Kalle Pukkanen, the Finnish driver. So they are teaming up. They've chosen to be teammates in the Haas. So they might be seeing a little bit of that white up towards the front of the grid, potentially. And then our Williams duo is Jonathan Foss, who was a McLaren driver for the first part of last season before his wheel decided to kill itself. And last year's F1 champion, Luke Mills. So Williams will be looking to be up there as well. Luke's playing a bit coy with his chances this season, thinks he's got absolutely no chance of repeating. But I wouldn't be too sure. Luke has shown he has quite a lot of pace. He's definitely one of the more consistent drivers. May not be able to live with the likes of Ian and Johnny on raw lap after lap after lap race pace. There might be a tenth or two in there difference between them. But Luke will put that lap in every single lap. Whereas some of the drivers around him may not.
Very, very strong one-lap pace.
Yeah. And I mean, considering he wasn't too far off sort of what you would imagine to be like raw, extremely strong pace, it was good enough for him to get some good results out with some good strategy calls and things. So if he can still do that with, you know, the top of the grid looking like it's going to be a little bit more congested than last year, where we would tend to have a 4 or 5 car train kind of take off a little bit.
Well, I mean, it just makes for finer viewing.
It could be a little nuts, and strategy might play into that quite a lot. If you can hang within the DRS of people that are maybe that little bit faster than you, that's definitely going to help.
I think that's one thing that's been missing a bit from this game as well, is the ability to experiment more with strategy as well. But if we have such a hyper-competitive top field, then we are sure to see some creative strategies, which that'll be fun to see.
Inspired strategy calls is the word.
Yes. I could not steal the term from the creator of the term. But yes, indeed. What is going on? Oh, my intermission screen isn't working properly. I probably just forgot to loop it. So we will go on to our lovely Bahrain Round 1 screen instead. Actually, I'll do the sensible thing and try and fix it. No, sod that. Can't be bothered. Well, that'll be a problem for next week, I think. Because it was sent to me as just like a .mp4 media source, and I forgot to convert it into a GIF. It's alright. OBS refusing to lend me a hand in fixing that problem, making me do the hard work myself, is never appreciated. In any case, let's just see if we have a lobby up yet.
There is. I got an invite. I'll try and send you. Ooh, no, I don't want to leave the session. Wrong button.
Ooh.
I'm going to press F1 and just escape. Yep, let's go.
Yeah, that's the one.
No, let's not. I'm glad it asks you. It's like, are you sure you want to do this? No.
It's going to be a point where games are built with such confidence that people know exactly what they're doing that you press escape once and it just closes without asking.
Closes the game, yes.
while I'm glad these technical heebie-jeebies and this sort of thing is happening at the beginning of the season when nothing is at stake, at the same time, there isn't really anything league-related to talk about at the moment because we haven't had any races.
Well, within this tier, that is true.
Well, I mean, that's very true. Very, very true indeed. And we, across the weekend that we've had, I say weekend like it's a race weekend, but across the race weekend that GRS runs, we have already seen people succeeding in one division, getting pushed into another tier's race if they're able to make it to see how they fare, and I have to say, I think our collective grid as a whole, for the most part, is actually very tight. We've seen drivers...
The grid looks cracked. The grid is stacked. It's nuts. It's like Hugo, in all honesty, was F2 champion last year and reserved up a few races into F1 and had a pretty decent pace, and is fairly certain he's going to be last. So, yeah, the grid's nuts. And our champion from last season is like, I might get a podium or two.
Jeez.
So it's
if
crazy.
they play out as their predictions say, then that, that only shows just how cracked of a grid we have. I mean, there's a lot of these guys that when you put them on a one-lap time trial, they'll only be a few tenths off of esports space, which is quite frankly very scary indeed. So we really do have some of the best here, and we're putting them all against each other. Exactly
to
what we want
all
to see.
probably end in a pile around turn 1.
Well, that would screw Nilsson's prediction a bit, I think. Although if 19 cars DNF and you're the 20th, you're technically first and last.
Well,
God knows. Can't be bothered for the philosophy stuff right now.
Imchaz is being slow, but he's here now. So we can go.
Lovely. Well, I need to try and join off of someone. So I'm still not in the lobby.
Are you not in?
I am not
I invited you.
Why has it not come through? Oh, hang on. Did you invite me through EA?
Yes.
Alright.
Because in crossplay lobbies it doesn't work if you invite through Steam all the time. There you go, I sent you another one.
God, I'm such a noob.
But we are re-going with a full, I say full, with short quali. So we'll have a full session, it's not going to be one shot. Because this was lobby settings being incorrect. It wasn't instability or anything that should cause a red flag. It's just a complete restart. So we are a little bit delayed, but hopefully we can get through this without having to red flag anything, without any instabilities. Which, as long as Hugo doesn't leave the session as the host, and his internet's pretty stable, so it shouldn't yeet him out. Touch wood. My desk is wood, so I can do that. Then hopefully we'll be fine, because that is what caused the red flag in F3, was the host leaving, and then it just murdered the pit lane and messed everything up. So hopefully we won't have that to deal with.
Hopefully so.
The host disconnected in F2 yesterday, which messed everything up a little as well.
Unfortunately, no invites are making their way to me.
Yeah.
I know Steam invites do, because that's what I got the last time.
But I cannot invite you in Steam because crossplay.
Because crossplay. Oh, what a pickle.
Yeah. Do you have Hugo added? If you do, you can join on him.
Join on him, right. Let's see.
You can click to join on host, and that works, but you can't click to join on anybody else because crossplay's stupid.
Right. Awesome, we are there. I'm
Pleasure.
in. Fantastic, lovely stuff.
It
Let's
might
get back
put
to
you in a
business. I'll automatically retire if that's the case. Nothing
We
to
do have
worry
a car
about.
free. Yes.
Let's see what it puts me in. Quickly smash one out, put it on pole. Carnage that would ensue.
Carnage.
Oh,
Or you just in the spectator menu. Oh yeah, you'll just be in the spectator menu. It's like, do you want this car? Actually, no, I'm good. Cheers.
I managed to high APM the... Well, thankfully, the spectator button, so maybe that made a difference. Who knows?
So yes, Jacob is once again going for his reconnaissance intermediates lap just to get a delta up, which I don't think is really necessary in a sprint weekend because you only get 3 sets of softs for quali anyway.
I like the spirit.
I don't know. I think he's just like.
I think he was 31-2 last time on the intermediates, so we'll see if he's able to beat that.
That's concerning. That's about half a second off my banker yesterday. But head of the train is going to be Darius Bodian this time around in the Alpine. Should be much happier now he has his ABS on, since that was the problem with the lobby settings, is it had been disabled. That is due to other leagues in which it is forced off that Luke hosts in. He's probably just loaded those settings and gone, yep, this'll do, I'm not paying attention to anything. But yes, as I've said, we have no assist restrictions here in GRS. Just the standard kind of mandatory ones like no DRS, ERS, pit assist, all that sort of stuff. But in terms of ABS, traction control, racing line, you can use all that if you want. Both Mercedes actually out on the inter tyres. Carroll's just trundling his way down the pit lane now in that second Mercedes car. Also trying out the inter strats, which there is quite a big gap behind Jacob, so he hopefully won't hold up the Williams behind him. Is that Johnny? It is Johnny behind him. So Luke's opted for the Latifi car as well, so we might see him in a wall sooner rather than later. But let's jump on with Darius, I think, for this first lap in quali to get a big snap out of the final corner, which is going to cost him maybe a 10th down to turn 1. We're going to lose a decent chunk of time down this pit straight. But he is going to break that magical 320 kilometers an hour mark. Hard on the brakes, down into second, takes that first turn really, really well. And nicely cuts turn 2 as well. Chooses to keep it in third gear, which I find makes the car a little unstable. But gets through there at a decent click. Using all of the track right out on the white line on the entry into turn 4. And again, riding over the curb on the exit too. It's a 28.8 for the first sector, which is pretty reasonable. But has to have a big lift in the middle of 6 and 7. Which is going to cost him some time. But this is just
on that curve as well, but wisely just keeps it straight.
Yeah, just a bank lap though, so probably just making sure he keeps it valid and has a delta for the next time he goes with a bit more anger. Takes turn 10 quite nicely using that ABS. Is going to give him a bit of an advantage through that corner. It's probably the hardest trail braking corner on the calendar, turning and braking, and it's off camber all at the same time. As we've got a Mercedes just moving out of the way, so that'll be Carroll. Needs to be careful to not accidentally hold up the Ferrari that's coming through at pace as well. But Darius with a 7.5 for that second sector split, so that is quicker than we saw Lucas do in the first run of quali by about 4/10. And Lucas did, was it a 38.9 I believe? So this might be Darius on for somewhere in the mid 38s, which would be a really, really good banker lap if you can. 28s, sorry.
I was going to say
29.4. Yeah, sorry, I think I'm still dreaming about Singapore in 2 weeks. Martin Ivanov does go fastest with a 28.5. Joined there by Luke Mills, also on a 28.5. And yeah, Jacob with the 32.9 on the inters. So about 2.5 seconds off.
He's now coming through the main straight. There it is.
28.2. So that's like a 10th slower than he did last time, but it's still crazy. Like, first lap, yeah, just smash the F2 pole time by like 4/10. It's fine, dude. Don't worry about it. We've got some slipstream going on from the Merc boys, which feels like a weird thing to do when you're on intermediate
tyres.
Why are you doing this?
Nice to see them having fun at least. I mean, you never know. He's definitely going to beat Adam Shack's time, I think, but
I think Carroll's losing some time here, though, in the middle sector. He's still stuck up behind Jacob. And doesn't seem to really be deploying any ERS. Whether that's a case of the intermediate tyres being intermediate tyres, or he forgot to turn it on, I'm not sure.
Ken's managed to put his Haas car into P2 provisionally. It was a very nice lap.
Letting the Ferraris at the front, so yeah, PlayStation showing up. Just so all of the profiles, by the way, not on Steam, where the majority of our drivers are from, because that is where GRS was based for the last 2 seasons. Now we've introduced crossplay. We have attracted some drivers from other platforms, but it is still predominantly Steam. In F2, there are 4 non-Steam drivers, and they finished in the top 4 positions. So we may have done a bad thing getting it on crossplay, because we've just made it so Steam drivers will never win anything, and we currently do have PlayStation drivers 2nd and 3rd and 7th. Everybody else in this tier is on Steam, just the 2 Haas boys and Martin Ivanov in the Ferrari on the PlayStation platform. No Xbox, no Origin in here. They're all a little bit down, a little off the pace of these guys here in F1, but making a home in F2 and F3. We do try and get the tiers as close as possible. It's much more fun to race somebody around about your own pace than, oh yeah, we're just going to stick you in this tier because of the platform you race on and you're going to get lapped every race. So that's not
Pretty
interesting
much.
for it.
I'm just on board with Owen Heinen at the moment. He did a second lap on the softs before going for a hot lap, so either a mistake or traffic getting in the way, but he's managed to take everything up to turn 10 very nicely. He managed to survive turn 4 this time and set a provisional purple sector 1 to be able to see if you can convert his pace. Very nice lines, very good minimum speed, basically everywhere I've seen so far. Tricky turn 12, choosing not to hug all the way up to the curb, but nevertheless, he's run off track, but it's kept him balanced. He's definitely left some time behind there.
Got a bit of a snap as he tried to get on the power on exit, it looked. And it's just walked him out of the curb. So yeah, he's going to lose him time, but like you say, just keep on
mid-28,
valid,
I would imagine.
Going to give him a decent wow.
You can't get more mid-28 than that.
So we've got controller players 1st and 3rd. You guys need to sell your wheels because they're not working.
Where am I going wrong?
You have to turn it.
Ah. Well, I see.
Just sit there with your feet on the pedals, go, drive for me, wheel, you cost £400.
Oh, yeah. Spend that amount of money, you'd kind of want it to drive for you anyway.
Well, yeah, that's true. What I should probably do, actually, while we're in a small lull in quality, is pull the stream up just so I can look at the chat. That might make sense, which is probably why I haven't done it yet.
Stumbled with Pavlakovic, who is hopefully on a cooldown lap because they've got absolutely no battery left.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Oh, there it is.
Get it in early,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, half second down. I mean, if they are going for another lap, they might just be getting some practice in for their next hot lap. Currently on board with Darius Bodian in the Alpine car, currently sitting 15th after his first qualifying lap. See what improvements he can make as he goes through turn 4. A lot of tricky corners around Bahrain. Good variety as well, so it really puts the drivers through their paces. 10th and a half up after sector 1. Let's see. Sector 2 is definitely where you can make or lose the most amount of time over the course of a lap. Wisely staying off at the outside curve to get that better exit. See what you can do into turn 10. Traction control, of course, making it a bit easier, and unfortunately rides the outside curve, which just spits the car out.
Yeah, I think Darius and his teammate Imtiaz, I think they use the ABS, but I believe they have traction control off. Yeah, you just see him balancing the throttle there through turn 11, and he's turned the battery off, so he's
bailed out. Absolutely bailed out of this one. Understandable.
Yeah, as you say, there are a few very tricky corners here on traction.
Absolutely.
Especially with that assist off. Turn 4's off camber just to make itself more complicated. As Luke Mills goes fast as 28.1, so Luke was wrong about saying he'd be in the mud. Unless he just has quali pace, he's going to get murdered at turn 1. You never know.
Unless mud provides more grip, you never know. I'm on board with Adam Jacques. He comes through the last corner. I'm not even counting turn 15 as a corner. See what he can do.
Oh, P2.
That's an improvement.
That's a 100th of a gain over Iron in the Ferrari. So We were looking at Mercedes versus Ferrari at the top here, and it's kind of looking like that. Assuming Carroll can get a decent lap in the second Mercedes, but he has invalidated this run.
On board with Will and the Red Bull has unfortunately lost it in the final corner.
Oh.
I didn't know if it was lag when it started happening, but unfortunately that is a Red Bull not facing the right way.
Not great for them, going a little bit like IRL Bahrain for Red Bull at the moment. Although Owens had a really good quali. Not really able just to put that lap together and get it all there. Both Will and Owen do have a pretty good amount of pace and consistency in the races. If it starts raining, expect Owen to make up a fair few places, although I think rain is pretty unlikely here. We could see it the next few races. We are heading off to China and then Singapore after this, which both do have a highly increased chance of rain compared to the poorly named Bahrain, where it never rains. Call it something else.
So you see the sun out, you're like, bah, rain, where is it?
Yeah. Drax coming to the line, he's a couple of tenths up and moves up into P2 as well, so a 28.2. This is looking crazy tight. The top 5 separated by 7/100ths of a second.
I mean, that's,
so far.
That's setting us up for a bit of a barn burner, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, that's with Carroll invalidating and Johnny not having done a second run yet. He's just on an outlap, so we could see some more guys piling into that little between a 28 a mid 28.2.
There we go. Eagle, I don't know your name and I apologise.
Yeah,
it's gone up to P10.
So Eagle is Jelly, which is our Tier 1, our Season 1 champion.
Ah.
To P10, so kind of displaying some of the talent that's rocked up over these last 2 seasons.
Speaking of talent, Bill Bass is 4 tenths up.
Oh, what?
He's going to be a 27.8 provisionally.
Iron, stop it. You are not Louis Welsh, however much you want to be. Stop it.
GRS Open out if you can hold this one together. Yep,
it's
provisional pole.
27.7. What is that?
Over half a second improved on an already pristine lap.
Is Ian just doing the outer loop and he hasn't told anybody? As Ken heads back to the pits, so that's going to be Drac, who's on an in-lap. So next to the line would be the AlphaTauri of Hugo Nelson. Was champion last year in Tier 2. Managed to take 3 pole positions, but in a obviously less talented grid. Oh, and he's on a big spin out as well.
I just tuned on to that one in the right time. I couldn't find him on the tower, but the moment I did, as is, let's say, tradition.
Not ideal, shall we say. So it's going to be Darius just to come up to the line now in the Alpine, but I think I think that's an in-lap going back to the pits. Jelly, we know he's going back to the pits, so the Red Bull is Will. Is he coming in as well? Will's just starting his lap.
Johnny's on a hot lap. He's half a tenth up at the moment. Sorry, half a second.
That's better than half a tenth.
Potentially more time to find as well. Currently, we're looking like
in
around where Heinen is.
Yeah, it's not somewhere Johnny would want to be on a 29.0. He definitely has the pace to fight the likes of Iron, but just not quite found it yet here in quali. But another driver in those 28.2s. 5,000ths off Martin Ivanov.
Definitely was able to find time in Sector 3.
3/4 of a tenth was second to 6th.
My word.
What up the... That's just crazy. Got an Aston Martin coming to the line, which is going to be George Parr, but I think he's just starting a lap. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is indeed. I think Will and the Red Bull is the next one to go on.
Yeah,
well, I say would be the next one across the line. He's only in the middle of the lap at the moment.
He found half a second in Sector 1 alone, although he is only on a 29.6, so he's going to need to find that in all 3 sectors if he wants to slot his Red Bull up towards the top of the timing tower.
He's nearly done it in Sector 2. We know there's time to find in Sector 3 if you can keep the car pointing the right way.
And he maybe slot into that little gap with Ken Imchaz and Owen Heinen, the 28 4s and 5s. I think it's going to be a little bit of a stretch to get down into the 28.2s with that group at the top. But it's a 28.8, so it's P11.
Pretty respectable and amongst quite a lot of other people. We've kind of got top half, bottom half, and the grace period of a few tenths of a second right in between.
It may have been the same set of tyres he had that spin on, maybe looking to keep hold of a set potentially.
May have been.
So
never technically completed a hot lap.
see if he can dive his way back out in time before the end of the session, but I'm not sure he's going to have that time.
Let's see what Park can do going by the name of Leaf.
Yeah.
I will get these names sorted.
Final corner, yeah. George Parr. He hasn't played the game for a few months. He's taken a bit of a hiatus, so this is going to be his first league race back, and it's a 29-0, so that's actually a decent lap.
Not too bad.
I mean, he found 2 tenths, and he'd be up with his teammate in 10th place.
Let's see what Quill can do in the AlphaTauri.
So far.
I don't know what time they're currently on, because it's saying a 4:18 for me at the moment.
It's
a skill issue.
Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah, so this is
a cooldown.
this is the bug it does sometimes on an outlap. It will delete where it says outlap. When
I see. It's the outlap bug.
So yeah, so the 4 minutes 30 is from the last time Quill finished a lap, which includes the time they spent in the pits.
Well, this might be their final attempt.
Just tell us. Yeah, so I think anyone starting a lap now, this is going to be their last lap.
Absolutely. We've got the majority of the field all wriggling around Sector 1. They're on their outlaps now, so we'll stay on board with Quill. See what they're able to do as coming up to turn 4.
I think Liam's just...
Yeah, nice and far. Chooses to ride the curve, so I think Quill's ride height is a little bit higher. So you can bottom out on that curve quite often. So they have actually set a purple Sector 1 currently, so we'll see what they are able to do in Sector 2. Given the power...
So I think,
nice.
Out of this gaggle, Luke's going to be the first one to start his lap, and I wonder if anyone's not going to quite make this.
It will be quite close. I mean, they were all heading out of the pits with about 2 minutes to spare, but then of course you've got to let cars through, figure out for yourselves where your space is going to be. So with only 30 seconds of room to play, very possible we might see a couple hit the flag just as they're about to start their lap.
Yeah, the Alfa Romeos have made it, and the Mercs will make it as well. I think it's going to be a little bit further down where we're going to see potentially a little bit of trouble. Quill's getting some traffic down this back straight though, but they all managed to get out of their way quite nicely. Drops it into the final corner, looking to improve on their currently 17th place, which is definitely not where they would want to start this race with a 28.6, fine 4 tenths, that jumps them all the way up to P10.
Not a bad
That's
showing
how
at all.
close it is. It's a little nuts. A couple of yellow flags just as people are slowing down and getting out of people's way. And we've got an Alpine forcing its way through around the final corner. But that's Imchaz just starting a lap, just managed to get out there and get the outlap done. Just in time.
Only 20 seconds left to go in the session. Is this Liam Cross coming through the...
Johnny's going to get there, but just about. But I'm not sure if
I'm
the
on board
Haas
with
is
Liam,
on the
yeah. He's on a cooldown. So hopefully he's able to time this to perfection, but unfortunately not, no. Just
Liam's not going to get there, so first man to complete his final lap of qualifying is going to be Luke, who was right behind him on track. I didn't see what the Sector 2 split was, whether he's improving, but it's a 28-0, so it's a slight improvement.
The two Alfa Romeo boys up next. Let's see what Slock's able to do.
He's a couple of tenths up through the Sector 2 split, so this could be challenging Luke, but I think it's going to be a little bit too far away from Iron. Misses out by 18 thousandths of a second. And then Kyron Chef jumps up to P7, 28.3, so bridges that little bit of a gap between Johnny and Ken behind. Jacob Adamjack now jumps up to P2, still in that 28s, didn't quite get into the 27s. 28.0 though, jumps ahead of Luke Mills.
Wilson gains a couple of places. What about Pavlakovic? No, they have not improved, unfortunately. Very hard to, well, on any track, run for a second consecutive
P9 as well. Carroll's had a big moment out of the last corner and runs super far off track, so that's not going to be an improvement there. So next is going to be one of the Alpines, which is Imchaz, jumps up to P8, followed by the McLaren of Jelly, who's heading back to the pits. So it's going to be a Ferrari, but that must be Martin Ivanov, who has already retired from the session. So last man over is going to be Johnny, who's finding a 10th. And finds an extra little bit, jumps above Owen Heinen and Martin Ivanov into P5. So that is going to conclude qualifying here to move on to our 10-lap sprint race. Karol Wodzinski's at the back of the field, which isn't where he wanted to be, but everybody else covered by 1.3 seconds.
And we take Iron's alien pace out of the picture. 1 second.
1 second covers second to 18th. So that means between 2nd and 18th place in the sprint race, we should have 10 which would be a bit mental.
Oh, yeah. This is
So,
going to
Ian
be...
Bilbasser takes first pole position of the season for Ferrari, and Jacob Adamczak in the Mercedes will join him on the front row. Luke Mills and Drax Locke take up the second row for Williams and Alfa Romeo, with Johnson, Foss and Owen on the row 3 for Williams, the second Williams, first of the second drivers, and the Red Bull. Martin Ivanov and Fer Imchiaz on row 4, with Lucas Bauschke and Kyron Sheff rounding out the top 10. Kalle Pukkanen and Quil Pavlakalic on row 6, Will Coates and Liam Cross row 7, Jelly Giesink and Hugo Nilsson row 8, Darius Bodian on row 9, nearly choked on my own illness, and Karol Wodzinski rounds out the grid on his own on row 10, but we'll be looking to make up places in the sprint race.
Lovely stuff. I will be 1 second. The central heating has kicked in out of nowhere and I am boiling hot.
I'm turning that off, I can't afford it. So it'd be interesting to see if anybody
this is a 10-second fix.
Yeah, be interesting to see if anyone tries the soft tyres here. You can, in theory, get them 10 laps, but it's a little tricky to do so, especially if you start fighting with people.
There we go.
But they are going to give you some pretty mega pace for the first 2 or 3 laps. Just to make up some places, maybe slot into a DRS train and just try and hang on to the guys in front. Especially if you have someone like Carroll starting at the back who will be looking to make up places off the line. But interesting to see. We may just see everybody go, screw it, and stick mediums on, which is probably the safe bet.
What I would be expecting, maybe 1 set of soft tyres.
I believe everybody was mediums yesterday in F2. We have 5 lights. And it lights out away for the sprint, gets a cracking start, and Luke gets the jump on Jacob off that second row. And he's going to slot up into P2, but we're going to see some guys 2, maybe 3 wide, and there's big contact at the back, and that's George and Carroll. And Carroll has unfortunately DNF'd from the sprint, and that is going to be a virtual safety car. And a bunch of 5-second penalties coming in for contact with the safety car.
Right, I've got the audio glitch.
As the tier steward, I personally would remove all of those if they're not nuts. If they're just slight little bits of contact on the safety car, you will immediately get given a 5-second penalty from the game. So if there's nothing too major in there, I would remove all of those. So hopefully those drivers don't have damage, and we'll get to the end of the race. Still carrying those 5-second penalties, and then they can be casually removed by me afterwards. Yeah. So it is just a virtual safety car, so we're not going to see too many laps wasted. Probably just the end of this one, I imagine it will probably be in. But unfortunate for Carroll, he's going to have to start the full race at the back this time, so won't quite be doing a Lewis Hamilton simulation of start the sprint at the back and win the race.
Right,
but he might just have to do it with a bit of magic, starting the race at the back and then winning from there.
Well, this game is a lot more immersive when there's noise. The audio glitch on the race start there, so I couldn't call anything, so thank you for covering that. We are now back in full strength, as it looks to be like the VSC is ending, as it is, as Ian and Luke Mills are able to just bridge away from the chasing pack a little bit here. You've got Adamczak trying to get back within a second of Mills. After lap 2, the DRS will be an option for
as
every driver.
We've got Fer Imchiaz into the pits already, so
got more drivers to come as well.
Damage with that, yeah.
It's a double stack for Alpine.
Kyron Sheff, Darius Bodian and George Power all in 2. George did opt to start on the softs along with Carroll at the back. Carroll unfortunately has DNF'd, so we won't get to see how good his tyre wear is, whether we can get those to the end. Imchiaz chooses to bolt on a set, which now they've done a lap. 9 laps is much easier to do, especially since he's not going to be in the hot, turbulent air of the guys behind, and it allows him to keep a brand new set of mediums for the race. So it's kind of their only option here if they start on mediums and need to pit, is to bolt on a set of softs. Ooh. Darius Bodian is actually putting on some hard tyres, so that's an interesting strategy choice. Maybe he thinks he can medium soft the race itself, and therefore won't need his hards for the race.
Unless he's gone for the harder tyre allocation, of course, so I believe they do give you that second set of hard tyres to use over both race instances.
Yeah, but that would have only given him 2 sets of softs to use in quali, so you are sacrificing somewhere to get that. As Ian is still leading the race, he's just about breaking that 1 second
and a reset
gap
to track at the back.
Well, that's a penalty.
Overheated rear tyres by the looks of things.
Spun again. Unfortunate there for George, but he was already kind of off the back. Luke's just about managing to hang with Iron in that DRS range. We're going to see a few fastest laps ping in here, I think. Jacob's managed to bridge himself back up, and Martin Ivanov, currently P5, is the first man outside that 1 second window. So he's not going to get the help of the tow.
Heinen's in.
Here, down into turn 4. Yeah, Owen Heinen pitting. That's a little late, so I wonder if that is a case of some damage or something like that. But he's choosing to retire from the sprint, so that is going to start him in P18 for the feature race after this.
Yeah, the timing tower didn't seem to want to work for him as he was coming into the pit, so I don't know if there was some desync creeping in or what. But in any case,
I hope not. There's Kyron Chef's in the pits as well. Maybe just burning through some soft tyres, I guess, so he doesn't have to carry them himself in the feature race.
Iron's teammate in the second Ferrari is outside of a 1 second gap from the top 4, so potentially we're starting to see the groups emerge.
We're starting to develop into 3 4-car groups. And then Hugo just off the back of that third group, hoping to try and make it 5th. So we've got Ian, Luke, Jacob and Jonathan at the front. So that is both Williams drivers in there, along with a Ferrari and a Mercedes. The second group is the second Ferrari of Martin Ivanov, with Draxlock, Lucas Bauschka and Quilpa Vlakovic. And they're just about keeping a second away from the second Red Bull of Will Coates.
Just want to point out quickly, Iron out front, 70% battery, Luke Mills behind, 20%, so he has spent a lot just to stay within the DRS, which of course we know can be beneficial, but this could also just be a glimmer of Iron's true pace over the race distance
Jacob
here.
And Johnny burning here as well, so they're both around 25-30%.
My word.
So all 3 of these guys having to dump their battery to hang on to Iron's coattails. He's absolutely flying in that Ferrari out front. But of course, he's not having to deal with the dirty air like these cars behind. Dirty air, not as much of an issue on this year's game. It's less impactful, but it does still matter in this twisty middle sector. Between turns 4 and 10, the dirty air really does play havoc with your lines and
bites you on the low speed.
Carry the speed through there. Yeah. But Luke's just dropped out of DRS on the exit of turn 10, but was close enough at detection to keep the rear wing open. But he's going to need to close back up into Iron here. But if Iron chooses to deploy a bit of battery around here, there's going to be absolutely nothing Luke can do, and it's going to leave him a bit of a sitting duck for Jacob.
The McLaren further back, losing a couple of positions.
Yeah, Johnny's made a mistake somewhere, and he has dropped into the clutches of the second group of 4. Currently, Martin Ivanov is going to be crawling up to the back of that Williams. And going to be climbing all over his gearbox if Johnny's not careful here.
This could be important here. Mills is outside of the 1 second window to Iron Bilbas, and Jacob Adams-Shack behind has managed to get DRS on Mills, so we may see a move for P2 down here. I'm expecting to see...
Jacob just pulls out on the way in, doesn't give Luke really any room to turn in and try and defend his line, kind of squeezes him right up to the curb.
DRS again as well, and made the move late enough.
Yeah, and above board, and yeah, very well timed there by Jacob, and we'll have to see, maybe the Mercedes can catch Iron at the front, because Luke really couldn't do anything about it, but Jacob's burnt quite a lot of his battery as well, so Iron could take this opportunity to capitalise on the drivers behind him fighting and kind of take off. As we have got a battle a bit further back, we've got the McLaren of Jelly Giesink and the Haas of Liam Cross going side by side through turn 4.
We've got Alfa Romeo off.
Yeah, Drax had a big moment there. And is going to be coming back in 10th place, so he's dropped a few places and kind of slotted into that third group of 4.
Front wing till in stack, so thankfully just a loss of the rear end by the looks of things.
As Kyron Chef sets the fastest lap on those soft tyres, but he is unfortunately running down in P15. And no fastest lap point in the sprint, only in the feature race, so... Nothing really to be gained from that. Apologies for my dying. I'll try and do it quietly from now on. But this front pack has kind of separated out into kind of groups of 2. So we've got Iron kind of taking off at the front and just completely having a race to himself. Then we have Jacob and Luke, a couple of seconds back from Iron. And then a couple of seconds back to Johnny and Martin Ivanov. And Martin's going to go for that move for P4 in the Ferrari. Down the inside into turn 1.
This is the battle I wanted to talk about. When it came to Martin getting behind Johnny on the final straight before the main one, where the Ferrari made the move, Johnny weaved a bit as if to say, "No, please don't get past, please. I've got nothing left."
Martin clearly not understanding the English from our Norwegian driver and choosing to make that move for P4 and give Ferrari some really good points here, it's looking like so far in this sprint race.
Over the course, just very slowly increasing his lead. He's got 2.5 seconds in hand now. Adam Jack is nearly outside of 1 second ahead of Mills in the Williams as well. So it might be set up, might be overall race pace. We will have to see.
Luke got a really, really good start and managed to jump Jacob, but looks like he just doesn't have the race pace. Martin Ivanov's gone round.
Ooh.
So we've had a Ferrari spin at turn 11.
I don't see any debris. I think he's kept it out of the wall.
Yeah, it's going to drop him out of the points, though. And he's going to lose a position to the Red Bull of Will Coates as well and slot himself into the middle of this DRS train here.
Nice opportunistic move by the Red Bull there.
Yeah, he's going to have Hugo right behind him. And we know Hugo can make overtakes, but he also does have a tendency, now and then, if someone moves slightly under braking,
Look at this train.
Pop someone off the track. So this is a train going back from 9th down to 15, which is Jelly, the last of our drivers who hasn't had to make a pit stop here in the sprint. And Will's going to go for a move on Liam. They're going to go side by side into turn 1. Will manages to get his Red Bull down the inside nicely, but make that move a little early, and Liam's going to get the DRS, possibly for a run back into turn 4. Will maybe a bit of a sitting duck, but he might just about have enough straight line speed to keep hold of this, and he does. But Jelly's going to make the move on Hugo just behind them, and move his McLaren up into P12. Just about hanging on to the DRS.
Left.
Pretty much everybody's dumped all of it, apart from Ian, who's just chilling. As Chaz has returned, that appears to be a crash. Ooh, so Chaz has very binned it, because there's debris all over the track. Oh yeah, he's parked on the outside curb of turn 12, so don't run wide there, boys. And that is going to be another virtual safety car.
I don't think that was a murder curb. I think that was the rear getting away from.
Oh yeah, no, I think he's bounced off the inside wall at turn 12 most likely, and it's just kind of put him to rest on the outside curb. But
anyone take a pit stop here?
No, not in the sprint.
Oh, I doubt it. They're going to give us 2 laps of racing, I would imagine.
Yeah, Bodian's in, but I'm not sure what he's hoping to accomplish with that, because he's just going to go a lap down.
Apart from being a lap down, I don't know what else there is.
Maybe he just doesn't want to do that final lap, just keeping some tyre wear off his tyres.
It's just making sure driver fatigue doesn't set in as much. I wouldn't be surprised to see midfield cars in.
Come in, and Hugo's coming in as well, which seems weird.
If it was for a couple of places, I would do it. If it was only for a couple, I'd take the soft tyres. But if you're losing any more than a couple of positions, you're not really going to get the chance to re-overtake cars. There's not going to be any DRS.
Yeah, but it's going to be in at the end of this lap, so they are going to get a chance to get their tyres up to temperature. They should have enough pace to close onto the back of the train. I think the only person who isn't going to be there is going to be Kyron Chef, because he is just coming through turn 12 as the safety car is making its way into turn 8, so he's going to be quite a way off. However, yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to make that much of an advantage. 7-lap old mediums are still pretty decent. They're probably not more than maybe 25% worn at this point for the guys at the front, so they're not like hanging on to their tyres. So I'm not really sure about this.
Just want Iron to get close to the safety cars so I can hear the roaring engine from inside. The correct choice of safety cars. The faster of the two. Safety car diff.
I quite like the Aston Martin safety car in terms of how it looks and things.
I like the
problem
colour.
The problem I have with it is they always go, let's use the Aston Martin safety car on this track that has lots of shadows, and then it hides in them.
Oh, if
there's a safety car at Australia, that thing's invisible. It just hides under the trees on the run down into turn 3 at Australia. You cannot see it for love nor money.
Wet spa. I think that's the Mercedes one though.
believe Spa is, yeah. The straights are too long for the Aston Martin safety car. But safety car is coming on this lap. It is forced in by the game with 2 laps remaining, so we are going to get a 2-lap shootout. And this is going to give everyone the chance to generate a lot of battery.
In fact,
and
everyone
Iron's
100%.
gone really, really early here.
He's got the grid off guard
through the final corner, and he's managed to get 6/10 on Jacob behind him. So this is going to keep Iron safe for a little bit, but Jacob's going to be able to burn plenty of battery here.
Not getting too much of a meaningful slipstream, but in any case,
yeah, Darius retires on the session. He was that lap down, so didn't really have anything to gain there. As Kyron's just going to come over the start-finish line, just as everyone else is making their way down to turn 4.
It's going to be 2 quali laps from everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. Everyone's going to have a huge amount of battery to dump here. You can spend 50% a lap, and pretty much everyone had full batteries. So they can all deploy all the time. And we get to see everyone's kind of top pushing pace here to see who's going to have the stones to make a daring move to try and earn an extra point and place on the grid for the feature race.
Speaking of top pushing pace, I'm on board with Slock in the Alfa Romeo. I just wanted to see what the pace difference was between the softs and the mediums at this point. Setting a purple sector 1, but unfortunately not being able to get through any of this traffic. It's a big train, so everyone's getting a slipstream at the moment. Able to go on the brakes so much later as well. Just wondering, will these soft tyres be able to do anything?
He's all over the back of Jelly. We might see a dive here down the inside for turn 12.
Got a bit wobbly. He's gone for it anyway. There's contact.
Go for it. I think Jelly just about saw him coming, just about left the gap.
That was borderline.
Bit of an opportunistic lunge there from Drac, but did have those fresh tyres, like you say, could brake that bit later, and managed to make the move. It was wheel-to-wheel contact. I'd say he was far enough alongside at the point of turning to be afforded the space, and he does set that purple lap, which hadn't overtaken it, which kind of shows just how quick these soft tyres can be. Back out the front as we make our way onto the last lap, Luke has dropped out of that 1 second window to the top 2, so they've kind of just dumped him completely. Like, yeah, bye Luke, we don't like you anymore. Even though it's his league, he doesn't get to win races just because of that. Johnny's staying P4 and managing to hold off Lucas and Ken.
Quill's having to go a long way past the McLaren, but they are now through as well, so we'll see if they're able to pick up any more positions as
Drax looking at a move on Martin Ivanov. He can't be dumb enough to send it on the inside of 10, surely.
That was close. Oh, he's gone!
Martin gets on the curb. Martin gets on the outside curb, just bottoms the car out, and that's going to chuck him around and put him back down into 13th place. That's going to cost him a few places. So now it's all on. Can Drac make up one more place before the checkered flag and steal the final point of this sprint from Liam Cross in the Haas in front of him? Drac has burnt through all of his battery. Liam runs very wide on the exit of 12 though, and that's going to compromise him here through 13. So Drac may get a chance just to send a move into the final corner. Liam spent his battery as well. He's not going to have that straight line advantage, but he's just about going to hold on to it as Drac kind of rear ends him. But everyone gets through that corner nice and fine, and there's not going to be any damage.
I'm looking at Quill. I'm looking at Quill. Oh!
Didn't quite get there.
Johnny, of course, getting pushed down the grid after the penalty.
So that is going to be Iron taking the win in the sprint race and the 8 points that come with it, followed by the Mercedes of Jacob Madame Jack. Luke Mills holds on to P3.
Karen
Johnny drops all the way to P12, but was P4 on track. Unfortunately, nothing we can do about the loss of grid position for the feature race, but if he says, you know, he was having a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact with someone just as that virtual safety car came out on lap 1, which is where he picked up the penalty, that 5 seconds would get removed, but nothing we can do about the grid place right now. No live stewarding in this game, unfortunately, as iRacing has. We're not quite that good.
I pressed the race director button and it's not giving me the race director.
It does that on sprint races. So then, yeah, Lucas Bausch is going to pick up P4 with Kali Pukanen P5, Wilcox P6, Liam Cross takes P7, and Drax Lock is P8, but obviously, like I say, if Johnny gets that 5 second penalty removed, that is going to drop him out of the points. Couldn't quite make that move on Liam at the end. And there was a little bit of contact, but it didn't seem too bad. Quill missed out on stealing that place by 0.06 of a second at the line for the AlphaTauri.
They needed another 100 meters. That was a quick close down as well.
If the finish line had been a bit later down the straight, we might have got there. But just didn't quite manage it. So 29 laps to go now. We've actually got Jacob showing full wet tyres in the garage, which I hope he's not actually going to start on those. Oh. Nope, there you go.
There we go.
It's fine. I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? I know inters in quali is one thing, but
so
full wets in a dry race.
What sort of strategies can we expect? We've got the obvious medium-hard or hard-medium, with the hard-medium probably being the preferable choice of the two. Yeah. But
the hard-medium tends to be better, especially when a grid's this close. Because the warm-up period on brand new hard tyres is horrible and is going to drop you probably like 17 places in a grid this tight.
The warm-up is an average of a 2-second loss.
It's a lot, yeah. It feels like more, but yeah, it's a decent chunk. Then you've obviously got the hard-soft, which is decent, but I'm fairly sure hard-medium's better. The softs aren't that nuts. Or if you're crazy with tyre weight, you can medium-soft.
Long hold up, but it's go for F1. It seems like everyone has managed to get away without getting themselves caught up in a penalty. Iron leads the way. Luke Mills has managed to get the place on. Lucas behind. Adam Shack's having a little look around in the middle of that as well, trying not to get pinched. They've all seemed to make it through nice and cleanly. They're all thereabouts.
It's a great start for Lucas Bauschka in the Aston Martin from P4 to P2 on the run down into turn 1. Luke's going to be coming under pressure from Jacob Adamjack, who's going to look to the inside for turn 4.
Oh, well, I'm looking at...
Luke's going to try and run it around the outside. We're going to go 3 wide with Drac as well.
Backs out very wisely. We've got an Aston Martin round. That is George Parr, unfortunately. Managing to keep everything going. Is his car okay? It is. Just
Drax had another little bump on someone under braking. I think Drax just trying to brake that a little late when he's in traffic. As Luke's dropped all the way to P7, P8 now.
Oh, he's being swallowed.
So not a great start for the Williams driver.
I suppose the one thing we haven't pointed out, actually, sorry to cut you off. But in a grid this tight, if you get knocked off of line, you're just kind of screwed. Everyone will just swallow you.
Yeah, once you lose one place, it can turn into 3, 4, and 5, as Luke's found out here. As, whoa, we've got a lot of squirreling around coming through turn 11. Jelly was almost sideways completely with the car. That's going to lose him a place to fellow Dutchman Owen Heinen in the Red Bull. He's going to make his way through there turn 13. Jelly got caught up there on the outside of the curb as well, which is a little bit of a sausage. But manages to not lose a place to the Swede Hugo Nelson behind him, as Hugo's gone around as well. Just as I say his name, he spins.
Very unfortunate.
Could we not have had that last season when he was beating me in F2?
I'm afraid not, Chief.
He should drive along going, Hugo! And he just spins. That would be extremely helpful.
Just press the magical Hugo button. I've got one on my pad. I don't recommend it.
Hugo magic. So Ian is going to hold the lead, and he's on the hard tyres. The 4 behind him have all opted for those mediums, with Lucas Bauschka, Jacob Adamjack, Drax Locke, and Will Coates, who's up to P5, so he's had a great start as well. Coming from, where did he start? He started, oh, he only started 6th, so he had a better sprint race than I thought. But yeah, so he's managed to make a place up, probably on the free-falling Luke Mills. Quill's made up 3 places, so they're up into P6 in the AlphaTauri. Currently trying to hold Luke off here as he's trying to get back up to where he started. But Ian's just kind of taken off. But so far, the entire grid down to 14th is a DRS train.
This is what we like to see.
So Quill makes the move on. Has to go defensive to hold Luke off. And that's going to drop them out of the DRS range of Will, so
he's lost a lot of time there as well.
Battery here to get back in it, and potentially is going to get there.
Looking at Kyron Sheff, potentially thinking of a move on Liam Cross, who was parked behind Johnny Foss in the second Williams.
A little higher up, Jacob has managed to make a move on Lucas Bauschka to take P2. So Battle can now be joined with Iron, but Lucas is going to try and come back at Jacob into turn 1. Jacob has to fend that off, go a little defensive into there, but manages to get back to a decent line for the entry to the corner, so shouldn't lose too much time to Iron. Actually gets a superior exit and gains a few hundreds on the exit there, as we've got a spinner, and that is Quill. So not a great race so far for the AlphaTauri duo, as Quill's gone around as well. Skill issue.
Very unfortunate nonetheless, but thankfully best part of 27 laps for them to be able to get themselves back into the race. It's not all over with safety cars and strategy to play out.
We had a safety car in the sprint, so I wouldn't count one out in the race. But yeah, so the front 5 are kind of taking off here. Luke's dropped a fair bit of space, so I wonder if he's carrying some damage on that Williams car.
Here.
Yeah, I wonder if Luke's carrying a bit of damage because he dropped back like 2 seconds from the guys ahead of him.
Potential contact, yeah, maybe. It's a lot of time to lose out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean the front wing looks fine, but he could be carrying some underfloor or some side pod damage, which cannot be repaired as Jelly picks up our first time penalty, and oh, Lucas is disconnected. Let me see if I
wonder why his lock was going through him.
I don't know if I have him.
Rather interestingly, with the just the damage profile of the front wings, it's very hard to see sort of like a tinted lime green damage, or even anything up to about yellow, until the wing actually breaks the end plate off. I remember in one of my races having a stewarding issue where I claimed there was damage, but there wasn't really anything seen until we even investigated the footage and just saw that either a tiny little shark bite at the front wing goes, or that outer strake on the end plate itself goes, and that all counts as damage. So might be carrying something very well hidden here, as we've got a very big train going from 7th down to 13th.
That's quite the train.
It's quite a large one.
If it could include that top 6, well,
sorry, 6th, yeah, of course, with Luke carrying the damage, potential damage. Might have just been knocked out of rhythm a bit after the awkward race start, and has just tried to get himself back in. I mean, he is the next driver on the hard tyres. Iron has got alien pace, so maybe this is just more what the hards are like compared to everybody. Hopefully Bauschka is able to come back in soon. Don't want him losing too many positions. But I'm right in thinking the AI level isn't too low in this league, is it?
No, it's a little higher than a lot of leagues run. We don't want people to lose too much time if they do disconnect. Any driver who are just sort of like, you know, oh, I'm terrible at this corner, so I'm just going to put on AI every lap. They're going to get penalised for doing that. So
there was a league I raced in.
To make it a little fairer for people who unfortunately get disconnected, especially with turning on the crossplay for this season, which, as we've seen, can cause a few instabilities here and there.
Definitely.
If your internet doesn't like you too much.
Of course. There was a league I raced in about a year ago in the 2021 F1 game where I got booted out before the race start. And it was a full 20-car grid, and there was a big pile-up. I think it was around China, and I tuned in, and I was 7 seconds off of P1 in 3rd because my AI ghost just said, I'm not a part of this.
I remember that race. Yeah, I remember that race because I think I finished like 5th or something, or 4th. I can't remember. Yes, I remember that race because they tried to go 4 wide at turn 1, and the guy on the inside was like, "What are brakes?" And then yeah, everyone died. So I was like,
actually, no, I'm referencing a different one. I'm referencing a different one entirely. I know what race you're on about quite fondly.
I have also had that at China.
But it's very, very fun China turn 1.
We have got a yellow flag in turn 2. Lucas is back in the session, so we'll be able to take control of his car again. Has managed to stay in P5 and within the DRS range of Will Coates. Just about, maybe? The timing tower's not really updating for me right now.
Bodian, unfortunately, his weekend is going from bad to worse. He's had a spin and a missing front wing going through turn 11.
It's going to require a pit stop.
Corners.
Yeah, and he's already on the hard tyres, so unless he has taken that choice of the 2 sets of hards, it's going to be quite a stretch to get mediums 23 laps.
Adam Jack putting some pressure on Bilbas here. It's the closest he's been in a while. He has got a lot less battery though. He's about 40% down. Bilbas is just able to.
This might be a case of. This might be a case of Jacob playing a little bit of the tactical game. Try and close up on Iron, steal some DRS. Drax coming with him as well, and just sit there, recharge the battery as much as possible with the DRS help from the Ferrari in front. And then obviously he is going to be in the pits earlier, most likely off those medium tyres and onto some hards. Unless he is trying to go medium to soft, but if that's the case, sitting this close to the car in front is not going to be great for his tyre wear. It's just going to overheat the rubber. But these front three have kind of taken off and just abandoned everybody else. They're just having a race.
Mercedes, unfortunately, that's
Carroll.
Wodinsky.
But doesn't seem to have any damage, so he's going to be able to keep going. But he's going to need to really get some speed going to try and get on the back of Hugo and Quill up in front. The two Alpha Tauri boys.
Absolutely, and Bodian's come out of the pit lane with a fresh front wing onto the medium tyres, so I'd imagine he's just hoping quietly that there will be a safety car within about the next 15 or so laps.
Yeah, if there's a safety car somewhere at the early 20s, maybe lap 19, you could dive in, put some brand new shiny softs on if you've got any left.
Lucas Bauschka making up for lost time, diving into turn 1, takes a place off of Will in the Red Bull. Will's trying to hang it out around the outside, gets the inside line here. Space left by the Aston Martin. It's just a tiny ding on the rear tyre.
That didn't look like a lot of contact at all, but it has fired Will off the track.
Bit there. I'm not thinking that's anyone's fault, to be honest. That was the tiniest bit of contact. Space was given from both drivers. I think the corner just pinched the Red Bull a little bit there. The Aston Martin was in front. And he's unfortunately he's just losing time with the hot rubber at the moment. George Parr has dinged him a little bit, but just wisely backed out to let Will back through. Status quo is normal at the front. Lucas Bauschka's got 3.5 seconds to try and find, and unfortunately Darius Bodian has decided to call it a day.
Yeah, he was quite a long way back. If we're not expecting safety cars, it would have been an impossible task to catch up to these guys from there, as everyone is pretty rapid. The front three are kind of getting away, but that's not to say that the guys behind them, the likes of Lucas, Luke and Ken, are not quick. They're just not quite able to bridge that gap, but we are starting to see a bit of a DRS train form behind Luke. He's going to hope to get on the back of Lucas, otherwise he's going to be a little bit vulnerable here to the Haas of Ken. Probably for the run into
Adam Jack is making a move on Iron there. Iron is going for the cutback on the harder rubber, gets the power down quite nicely.
Just about kept two wheels in track limits there as Jacob kind of squeezed
on as well.
But Jacob's going to get the DRS again.
Slock's just thinking, if you guys could just crash each other out, that would be ideal for my race.
Very
so close, and have slotted back in as it was.
Yeah, good defence from Iron on turn 4. Just about left Jacob enough room, but ran him wide enough. He couldn't make the most of
bad to worse for Will in the Red Bull. I think he's beached in the gravel.
Well, reset track is banned, but if you're beached, you are allowed to use it.
This is the only time you'll be able to, but unfortunately it doesn't look like he's doing that. This is going to be an advertisement for the whole league that this is the time that it's okay to reset the track. He's free!
He's got it out!
Hey!
He's started his own car. That's pretty. He's left the session. That's probably why it's gone to AI mode.
I was getting hopeful there for a minute. I was going to give him the David Hoy Badge of Honour for perseverance, but he's managed to get out with the help of technology.
Why do you have the badge?
Well, because I get to wear it most of the time because I never give it out. So I can have a little badge with a smiley face that says, "You did great, kid." Adam Jack has not done great out of that final exit. Unfortunately, it's going to leave him very vulnerable to Zlot in the Alfa Romeo. This is an almost preordained move. As he's getting pushed onto the grass, not enough space being given. They've gone pretty wide. Iron braking early just to avoid it all. Once again, trying to hang out around the outside. Adam Jack's not leaving any space. I'd argue that Iron was entitled to some there. Maybe a warning for Iron that might get removed.
But Drax had a nightmare turn 1 and just dropped 3 seconds back and into the clutches of Lucas Bauschka. So these two are going to fight their way alone now at the front. They're 3 seconds clear of the chasing two behind. Ken has managed to make that move on Luke for P5. And Johnny's having a fight with Imchaz. They're going to go side by side into the kinks of 6 and 7. Johnny manages to maintain P9 for now and on the back of the Red Bull of Owen Heinen. Imchaz has to take a bit of evasive action on the run into turn 8, and that's potentially going to open him up to Jelly. Just about manages to get the traction and get out there in a decent amount of clicks. Johnny weirdly ghosted on the way into turn 10, and Imchaz glitched inside his car and is then teleported backwards.
Oh.
So I'm not entirely sure what's happening there with Johnny.
Well, let's put out the lag switch on that one.
Give me my lag switch back. Drac does seem to have quite a lot of pace here, though, because he's closing back in on the front two. He's gained 3/10 on this lap. Yeah, make that half a second now. And he's going to bring in Lucas with him. So if Lucas can hang on to Drac here, this is potentially going to make this a front four by the time we get closer to the pit stops.
It's like Adam Jack has managed to actually get a bit of a distance now between him and Bilbas, right as I would say the hards phase in this stage of the Grand Prix. Maybe another lap or two before they are the tyre of choice to be on, but right now the pace between the Mercedes and the Ferrari should be quite even. I think Iron has enough racing maturity to know that if the Mercedes gets away, he gets away. He's got the faster tyres to come. He's kept those medium runners behind for pretty much the whole race distance so far. Still, nearly 3 seconds back to Zlok in the Alfa Romeo, so under pressure by Lucas Bauschke here. Remember, he had a disconnection. He's managed to keep himself in a very nice position in this Grand Prix indeed. We have
all that much under AI mode, which is quite helpful at the AI level we run on, and has managed to hang on to Drac here as he's trying to make his way back to the front two. And if Lucas can do this, it's gonna really help him out. As we've got a yellow flag in sector 1 for Carroll leaving the pits, I think. We get a bit of a moment or a drive.
He didn't leave the pits. No, that was just taken normally. The final corner had a yellow flag there as well, which I kind of brushed off as the game being strange. I will go on board just to see what's going on here. Seems to be braking early and things like that. Maybe some...
I wonder if he's potentially carrying some damage and he's just hoping for a late safety car.
Yeah, definitely. Or an IRL setup issue, maybe the wheel not behaving itself. So,
potentially,
Imchaz has gone into the pits. First one to bite on the strategy. It's a bit early.
This is definitely going to be hard tyres, but no front wing change on the Alpine, so that's going to be a very quick stop. Get back out onto the track. He's going to go through this warm-up period on these hard tyres, though. And all the guys around him who he was racing are already on those hards, so they're going to lose less time for a warm-up period on mediums, and he's going to lose on the hards. So,
this helicam is nice.
Try and nail this.
This helicam is so nice.
Oh, you got a helicam? I want a helicam.
I was surprised to see one. I had the off-to-the-side onboard camera for the whole of qualifying, but now it's given me a really nice helicam at the start of Sector 2. The windly bits, see all the cars, despite being far apart, all in the same shot.
They do need to make it so that you can... Oh, so we've had a spin. Drac's gone round.
I was panning through to get to the Mercedes and Lars, who had a spin on the final corner, and right as I panned through, Zlok spins. It was a 2-in-1.
Yeah, very unfortunate there for Drac, and that's going to drop him down to P7. And he's going to have quite a train coming up behind him.
Led by Conductor Heinen there.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be Conductor Drac now. He's joined the front of a conga line. You can never leave a conga line once you're in it. You can only form a rival conga line. So I'll have to see if Drac dives to the pits, but he crosses the white line on pit entry, so that's 5 seconds.
Had a 5 second as well. Oh no!
Into the pit lane, and that's going to be another 5 seconds for crossing the white line, which you cannot do. The drivers behind have to be aware of where you're going, so they don't just drive into the back of you. But this is going to be Drac on some hard tyres. After losing the DRS, choosing to make the most of that. Hugo's in as well. There's no way he's pitting it this early for some mediums, Hugo. That's very early to get off those hard tyres, but he does look to be going on to mediums. He's getting a new front wing, though, so that might explain a lot. Having to hang this out maybe for probably 17 laps on the mediums, which is going to be tricky, but possible.
It's doable. I don't think they'll be
It's going to be a light fuel. It's going to help him out as well. And Drac has rejoined just in front of Imchaz. So that's just how much that spin lost him.
My word.
And Imchaz already has his hard tyres up to temperature, so we might see a move by the Alpine driver. But Drac just parking nicely in the middle of the track, making it difficult.
Imchaz losing so much time on this undercut attempt. He dives to the inside. Just wants to get past this Alfa Romeo as quickly as possible.
Drac's going to get the cutback though, and they're going to go side by side into 10, but I think Imchaz may just have the drive.
Parts had a bit of a moment coming out of turn 10.
About leaves Drac the space, but then not at the exit of turn 10, although I think Drac was far enough back to not really be afforded any. And that is going to give Imchaz that space, and he now needs to take off after the guys ahead. But back to the front, we've still got Jacob versus Iron. And they're
The
just
Mercedes beached on the final corner curb exit.
Oh, that's not ideal. You can reset the track there, Carol. And he's been disqualified. He didn't reset the track early enough.
In fairness to the game, that is quite a dangerous location to be stuck.
Quite a dangerous location, although I am quite surprised there was no safety car. But kind of glad there wasn't at the same time, as everybody else piles through.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we've had Ivanov having a little bit of a spin coming out of turns 2 and 3. Ride those curbs the wrong way, they will just spit you out.
Yeah, turn 2's not nice. It is not your friend, however much it tries to tell you it is not your friend. But if we have a quick run down the grid here on lap 13 of the 29 we are scheduled for today. Jacob Adam Jack and Ian Bilbas out front, just 7 tenths. Separating the Mercedes and Ferrari drivers, they were our front row at the start of the race, and they have swapped over here in the race. Jacob Adam Jack managing to take the lead. Then a 3.5 second gap back to Lucas Bauschka, who did have a disconnection, so definitely has the pace to live with these front guys if he can just find a way to close that gap. If they fight a little much, maybe he'll get up there. Then a 2.5 back to Kalle Pukkanen in the Haas, who's having a quiet race, just making up some places as everyone around him seems to make mistakes and fall off the road. And then another 2.5 back to Luke Mills and what was Kyron Sheff, who's dived into the pits in the Alfa Romeo, looking to try and get that undercut on the Williams of Luke Mills.
Not a bad lap to pit.
No, it's pretty good timing. It's going to give him 16 laps on the hard tyres, which is going to be perfectly fine to do. They shouldn't be 2-1 by the end of that. So that is now going to have a 6.5 second gap back from Luke to Owen Heinen and Luke's teammate Jonathan Foss, who are separated by just 8 tenths. So Johnny's going to get that DRS assistance to drag him along with Owen. But he does have a significant battery disadvantage to the Red Bull. So Johnny's going to need to find a way to regenerate that. And he's also under-fueled the car, so Johnny may be hoping for a safety car here. It's not the easiest track to save fuel on around Bahrain. 2.5 seconds back then to the second house of Liam Cross, who's kind of in a bit of no man's land as he runs deep at turn 10 and has to go onto the sand and paint bit, which is going to lose him a bit more time to the McLaren behind him of Jelly Giesing, who does have a 3-second time penalty, one of only 2 drivers in the race with a penalty, and the only one with a penalty for track limits. Quite an easy track to not get track limit penalties here at Bahrain. So
only a couple of corners to look out for, really.
Yeah. So
depends how clumsy you are.
Yeah, I wonder if Jelly's potentially picked one up trying to go side by side with someone and has just been kind of squeezed out of space as Lucas Bauschka pits from the front. So from third place man coming in, putting on some hard tyres most likely here to go to the end of the race. Looking to see if maybe an undercut is going to help him close that gap up to Ian and Jacob at the front. And he's going to come out behind this fight here with Liam and Jelly.
Nice.
Quill manages to jump through as well, yeah. Who is 5 seconds back from that fight between the Haas and the McLaren. And then there's a 1.3 second advantage on Martin Ivanov.
Ooh, Ferrari gun.
Who's had another spin.
Missing front wing end plate as well. That's another trip to the pits.
Yeah, so
damage for the Ferrari. Early trip to the pits.
Unfortunately, he's going to have to do a fair few laps on those medium tyres, but should be within range to get that done.
That's a Mercedes dueling through Sector 2. A little bit of a switcheroo.
Bit of a move there, bit of a opportunistic dive bomb. But Liam sees him coming, manages to fend the McLaren off, but Jelly's going to get the DRS here for the run down into turn 10.
Close enough to be side by side here.
He's going to try around the outside. That's if he can hold it here, it's going to give him the inside for turn 12. And he does manage to hold it. That's going to be a great move by Jelly if he pulls this off.
Ooh, keeping it clean. Losing shed loads of time, but they are keeping it clean. No contact whatsoever. So very good driving from both of these guys.
He breaks a little later, carries a lot of speed around the outside line, and it's going to give him the place back. But this is going to give Jelly the DRS for the run into turn 1. We'll see if both these drivers stay out. If anyone dives to the pits.
I don't think I'd push battery if I were Liam here, unfortunately. I think
Liam's going to go defensive and then move back to the racing line. Try and break some of this slipstream from Jelly, but I think Jelly's still going to have just about enough. Not quite enough to get there for turn 1, but he's going to be extremely close here through 2 and 3. And Liam's a little bit compromised on the exit.
Forcing Liam to use a lot of battery here, and now he's not deciding to. I don't know.
Jelly's alongside on the inside into 4. Liam leaves him space.
Oh, it's the helicam.
On the power a little earlier as they're going to look side by side into the middle sector.
Pinch the McLaren slightly.
Bit of wheel rubbing, but Liam manages to fend off the McLaren for now, but this is going to continue until one of them blinks and dives into the pits, I think.
You know what I think is also going to continue? Adam Shack on the mediums, 15 laps. This might be a medium to soft strategy here.
Trying it here. If he can make it work, it's pretty good, although his pit now light is on, although I know the game doesn't allow you to say you're doing medium soft, so it's possible he's just ignoring fake Jeff.
He's got Mark every lap saying, go on mate, in you come. His tyre should be losing grip as Iron dives into the pits.
What was that? I saw a really weird bit of lag there. He basically dived into the pits and then kicked him back out onto the pit straight as though he'd made a crazy, like, swipe move, so that's odd.
He did swipe in to the pits. He was within the white lines, but he was getting as much of a slipstream as he could off of Adam Jack and then just dove it into the pits last minute. Where is this going to put Iron? Hopefully not into too much traffic.
P6 just ahead
wants to get ahead of these
Liam
guys.
and Jelly, so that time Liam and Jelly lost going side by side has allowed Iron to come out in some free air if he can keep ahead of these guys.
And of course, no DRS for Liam.
Tired Tio. No, Liam has it. He got it from Iron as he exited the pits.
Oh,
Iron in the front though, just about managed just to hold on. Maybe having
a visual bug.
Battery, but he's up around 80%.
This has actually worked out really well for Iron because his tyres will be pretty much heated up after this corner or turn 10.
They should be fine now, yeah. They should be okay now, and he's got 6.5 seconds of clean air in front of him to take off after Jacob.
Yeah, he's a bit cautious on the brakes, but no lock up.
Yeah, he's most likely going to get the undercut done here. It's going to be a case of can Jacob haul him back in on presumably what's going to be soft tyres at the end. He's going to come at Iron at a rapid pace for a few laps, and then they're going to start to fade away a little bit.
So currently Iron is best part of 23 seconds behind Adam Jack. I'm expecting him from this lap onwards to gain about a second to a second and a half per lap quite easily.
Yeah, it should be that at least. Brand new tyres versus 17 lap old on the same compound, there should be a significant pace difference.
A second in Sector 2 alone, I would imagine.
We'll keep an eye on fastest laps. Currently, Jacob, Ken, and Luke are all on 32-0.
Johnny. Backs out of it just to get the exit out of 2.
But he's going to have DRS again here, the Red Bull, and he's going to look to the outside for turn 4.
Johnny's just let him through.
Maybe, but
Heinen not even having to deploy battery there, so that was a one and done move quite easily there as we got just Jelly on Liam again. This battle is a very fun one to watch. Same strategy as well.
They come into the pits together and just continue this on out of the pits as well.
I want to see a medium tyre warm-up slidey battle. Oh, speaking of slides, that was close. Nearly spins Liam.
From Jelly, but look in the background. All this fighting has brought Quill right onto the back of these two, and this is going to turn this into a three-way fight. Quill is happily pumping the Jaws music out of their Alpha Tauri. Just into the headphones of the McLaren and Haas drivers. As we've got a Aston Martin round at turn 1. I think that's George. It is, unfortunately. Running around in P16 for now. But he's going to stay on the lead lap.
Just coming into the pits. Who's going to follow behind? Anyone following just yet? No. What are Liam and Jelly going to do?
Iron sets the fastest lap there with a 30.5.
Gross.
So he's definitely coming at some pace. Adam Jack's fastest lap is a 32.0, so he gained a minimum of a second and a half on that lap.
Whoa.
Gap is down under 20 seconds now. He's closed about 3 seconds on that lap alone.
Liam's on the back of Jelly. Jelly got a slide.
Burnt a bit of battery, so Jelly and Liam.
Liam breaking later there.
Again.
Can he hold it round? They're close. It's tight once again.
Liam manages to fend the McLaren off.
All the while, Quill's just thinking, stop fighting, let me through. You're both bad.
Probably in that exact tone of voice, actually. That is a pretty good Quill impression.
I didn't go die hard on the impression, but I was impressed with how it came out.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The snap there, though, from Jelly on the exit of turn 8 is going to put Quill back in DRS range of these two as well. They managed to kind of pull out of Quill's DRS while fighting each other. And then the little snap of oversteer from the McLaren is going to put that AlphaTauri right back there with the rear wing open.
So Luke on the slipstream.
Around here.
We have not discovered if you've got two cars going side by side for an entire lap.
Adam checks in and Ken follows him. So front two, this is going to
Adam Jack on the softs.
Owen the lead if he stays out. Oh, this is going to be a long way on those soft tyres.
Owen's doing hard to softs. Johnny's doing hard to softs. Most of these other cars are now doing hard to softs.
Yeah, so that's going to put these two up first and second. Look at Ian. He's burnt another 10% of his battery, and that's a huge amount of undercut he's got on Adam Jack.
Oh, and, turn 1's becoming a bit of an intersection.
Will have all cleared Ken as well, but Ken has, of course, already made that pit stop. And as has Lucas, who is now right on the back of Ken as Ken comes out of the pits. So potential for the Aston Martin to make a move here in this next lap or so.
Thrilling to watch Jelly and Liam. I was on Quill's onboard and all they could see was just Jelly try the inside. Nope, didn't work. Try the outside. Hang it out around the outside. Now he's trying the inside once again.
Ooh. Ken's had a spin. So Ken has had a spin, which has handed the place to Luke.
There's one way to get tyre temps.
9 now. Yeah, Luke's in P9 now, which is net P4
Liam's gone deep.
Ian at Jake and Lucas.
Set to go to the, as you just said, described sandy painted bit.
Quill's going to try. Look at Quill.
Ah, beautiful. Exactly what they needed to do. Try and split these cars up. Get the McLaren with... We know it's got no battery on its own, but Liam is territorial here. Liam saying to Quill, bro, this is my fight.
Too much. These guys all on the same strategy. They're all on 19-lap-old hard tyres.
They're about 8 tenths away at the moment. They could lose DRS if they keep fighting into turn 1.
And Lucas Bauschka is now right on the back of these guys. Lucas already he can't afford to lose time in this fight.
Both drivers getting DRS. Lucas Bauschka might get a double slipstream here. May get a pair of them. Might just be happy with Liam for now. Oh, he's broke a bit late. He's not really committed. Quill's left the space.
Ian looking at a move on Johnny. Ian makes the move on Johnny.
Oh, there's a little bit of rubbing, but that's all harmless.
Yeah, that's the Ferrari up into P2. He needs to clear Owen and hope these two stay outwards when Jacob catches them and manages to hold him off a little bit, because those soft tyres are going to be pretty rapid for a few laps.
Ian might get the move done on that Heinen here into turn 11 if he's able to stay close to 10.
Even Liam's had a spin.
No.
Liam's had a spin on the exit of turn 4, and that's going to break him up from that fight with Jelly that's been going on for seemingly ever. He's going to promote Luke up into P8. So another free place for the Williams driver, but he's just quite in the DRS of Luke the Aston Martin.
I'm expecting Owen to box. I'm expecting Owen to box. But there's every chance, if he stays out, he can just deploy as much of the battery as he wants, just to keep Ian behind if he's feeling like that's the fun thing to do. I'm expecting Heinen to box there.
Ian's spent quite a lot of battery building this gap as Owen is into the pits. Johnny follows him, so these two are going to continue their fight on after the pit stops, and that's going to promote Jacob with the fastest lap up into P2.
3.5 seconds, that's all there is.
3.6. As Owen's on those soft tyres already, the Red Bull garage obviously a lot closer down the pit lane than the Williams one. And Johnny onto some softs as well. And Liam follows them in too.
Quill yet to box. So they're probably hoping for a safety car just to cash in on the commitment on these hard tyres. I'm expecting Bauschka to get this move done. I don't think Quill will resist all that much unless they are going for potential safety car track position. Oh, Bauschka very wobbly there.
And he's going to look for a move.
Oh, Lucas and Quill getting a bit
opportunistic for Luke on Quill there. I wonder if Quill had to lift to avoid Lucas.
Quill has left Luke the space.
Nice racing from the pair of them, but Quill's going to get a better exit here and maintain the position into turn 10. We've had a spin in Sector 1. That's Jelly in the McLaren, who has just come out of the pits on some soft tyres, so just not quite up to grip with those cold tyres.
Quill's had to take every apex. Quill's had to take every apex like a risk assessment this lap. The ability to do so is shown very nicely.
If Luke wants to stick with Lucas in the Aston Martin, he cannot afford to lose time behind Quill. So he's going to get some DRS assistant down the pit straight from the Alpha Tower, even if he's a second away from the Aston Martin. We should help him close in, assuming Quill does go to the box, which I think is most likely. Though they're staying out again.
Wow.
Although 22 laps, we're on lap 23.
I think there's every chance. I think Quill does need to pit.
I'm checking it.
Because Liam is also not pitted. They both started on the hard tyres. And I think Quill is probably looking at these tight groups where there are about another 7 or 8 cars between them and where they will come out, and think, if there's a safety car with all this fighting, I can cash in and lose minimal positions.
If there's a safety car, pretty much everyone that isn't on shiny brand new softs is gonna pit. So Luke might stay out on those mediums. I'm not certain, but I think pretty much everybody on the hard tyres is gonna pit. The likes of Lucas Bauschke, Kyron Sheff, Liam Cross, of course, they're all gonna pit. So that would give Quill a few more track positions they wouldn't have had otherwise. Although behind Kyron, speaking of, we have got a bit of a train forming here with Liam, Ken, Owen, all in a little group. And Owen is on brand new soft tyres, so he's looking to make up places as quickly as possible. Has a little bit of a look into turn 13, but nothing going for him there. But we'll get the DRS assistance and kind of like a triple slipstream here. So we may see a bit of Haas team play potentially in front of him. Is that Liam, I think, has just about managed to hang on to the DRS? Yes, he has. But
Ken's got no battery left. It's going for a move anyway.
So much straight line speed.
Did you get the pair of them here?
I think so. Super late
that's a big dive and contact. Guess the braking wrong. I think there was a lock up there.
Yeah, a little sus, but nobody died, so I guess we're okay.
I know. I saw what he was going for, and he nearly made it work.
Yeah, there's Jelly now with the fastest lap at 30.2, and the gap at the front is down to 2 seconds. But those soft tyres
this lap, though.
Are going to start getting a bit sketchy with 4 laps on the crossover to the mediums being the quicker tyre is about 5, maybe 6 laps. So Jacob's not going to have too much more time.
Luke really needs to get past Quill here, but he just doesn't have the battery to get past him. Quill's still got over half.
Well, really, really good in terms of tyre and battery management. As we can see, 23 lap old hards are managing to hold off a guy on 5 lap old mediums. Luke was commenting early that since he got his wheel maybe 6 months ago, he has had some difficulties overtaking people at times. And I think we're kind of seeing that here now. They're kind of relying on raw pace and people making mistakes to make. Quill heads to the pit, and that's going to release Luke to take off after Lucas. 1.3 the gap, but the DRS on the Williams is going to help out.
What if Quill selected the default strategy and it puts them on mediums? No, soft tyres are selected, so they will just have a nice, easy trip to the end.
If
team will take them along to China, I think. It'll be so intact.
Quill's going to come out in P12 here, should just about manage to get out ahead of Jelly and not lose time on the warm-up phase and potentially get swamped by the McLaren. So that overcut has worked quite well for them.
Definitely, and with the addition of Luke not really challenging.
Liam's still yet to pit in the Haas though. As they're just holding up Johnny here still on those 24 lap old hards. So some great defensive driving from Liam, but Johnny's going to go for
Liam
a move
playing the ultimate team game here.
Turn 8. Yeah, he's going to try and hang it on the inside, but Johnny's got such an overspeed with traction on those.
Jelly's gone round. Managed to get it on track pretty quickly though, which means it'll be a hot surface temp on those tyres.
360?
Potentially, I didn't catch it. But he definitely caught whatever spin he was having nice and quickly. Can I just point something out?
Yes.
First and second place.
1.6.
I'm looking at second to third now. 12.8 seconds. What a gap these two managed to pull this race.
Absolutely flying. And Lucas got onto the back of Lucas. He's in that DRS range. And on fresher and softer tyres.
So it's 1.7 seconds going into sector 2. I'm going to keep an eye on this lead gap because I think the Supreme tyre ownership is changing hands now. If not this lap, definitely next, as Adam Shack is not really gaining any time on Bilbao.
6 lap softs against 6 lap mediums would be pretty equal, so he's going to have a very minor advantage here with Iron having 3 laps more on those tyres. But that should be eroded by the time they come around next lap.
Iron actually getting DRS off of the lapped Red Bull
Iron's going to get
as
some
well.
help here, yeah, from the disconnected Will Coates.
Blue flags are
try and
out.
invite, but is offline on Steam, so unfortunately I cannot.
Ah, he's disconnected, I see.
Yes. But Luke just 4 tenths behind Lucas, looking at that final podium spot. They've got a big 7-second gap behind them, and 13 seconds in front of them, so they're kind of all alone here, these two. Looking to see who can take that final spot on the podium, but it is looking like, currently, either way, we're going to have 3 different teams on the podium in both the sprint and the feature race, which is going to be quite good to see in terms of the constructors' standings.
Well, to elaborate even further, our top 7 drivers are all representing different teams.
Liam's gone around, unfortunately, so that is going to be on 25 lap old hard tyres, so
if they weren't puncture territory, they might be now.
I think I had 25 laps on my hards yesterday, and they were on about 73%. So Liam's been on the start of the race, which was
even more
heavy fuel. But he's going around again.
He's staying out. I think
has Liam just forgotten that he needs to pit at some point?
This is. I mean, the only thought process now is, I'll bang in a fastest lap on lap 29, I guess.
So yeah, so we will see Liam in at the end of this lap, I would imagine, to get the out lap and then a flyer, as they've lost the position to Quill on those shiny soft tyres.
Imagine Quill will get on the back of Slock
places
on the final lap.
Yeah, 3.7 to gain to steal a point. Although Drac does have that 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which Hugo's just picked one of those up as well. With troubles of pitting for the chance to go and grab fastest lap, but needs to be a little quick in the pit lane to not lose a lap to Iron here, who has now managed to pull that gap to Jacob out to 2.1 seconds.
It's going to be very close.
Yeah, this is going to be a little sketch for Hugo, I think.
I think even if Hugo is able to hold the line, he's just going to have to cede the position to Iron anyway. And he's gone deep. Perhaps just letting the 2 leading cars through definitely as he's gone off track.
Yeah.
Frustrating as it may be for Nielsen, I respect the choice to do that.
As George Parstill's the fastest lap with a 29.7.
Very nice.
So he's not had the best day, but could still see a point heading his way in the Aston Martin.
So Lucas passed.
And speaking of Aston Martin, Luke has managed to make his way past Lucas Bauschke, yeah. So that is a 3rd spot on the podium for the Williams driver right now. We'll see if Lucas can fight this back. Does have a decent amount of battery, 30% of an advantage over Luke.
The battery advantage will supplement the tyre diff.
There we go. Liam finally remembers he has a Haas pit box and has made his way into the pits at the end of lap 29. So he's going to have this out lap here on 28. And then a flying lap on 29 to just about possibly hold off Martin Ivanov and go for that fastest lap. He does come out into turn 1 in front, but runs a little deep, gets on that curb. But he's just about going to hold the place. But Martin Ivanov here is going to have some DRS, I think. And is going to have the chance to make a move into turn 4 and manages to do so.
Blasted past
on those medium tyres. Yeah, possibly running a few lower wings here than Liam. So that's going to harm Liam's chance at a fastest lap, I think.
So,
unless he can blast back with the DRS down the pit straight once these tyres are up to temperature, which he may be able to do. And then having that DRS advantage into turn 1 is going to help his fastest lap. So kind of depends just how close he can stick with the
Imchaz here
driver.
is closing in on Johnny, entering into the final laps. A big tyre difference and battery difference between... Well, not so much battery, but tyre difference. Johnny's going slow.
Imchaz has Johnny run out of fuel?
I think he's got the fuel light on. I think he's had to lift and coast. He is lifting and coasting. I can confirm. So this will be Johnny just making sure he can secure P9 here. If he's able to hold it through, I mean, he can afford to lose 6 seconds because Quill's the next car without a penalty that will be able to do anything. I think Johnny's very much realising best I could do is P9. Unfortunate.
Johnny's done a me. Iron fuel light's flashing as well, so there could be a sting in the tail here in this final sector of the final lap as the Ferrari rounds turn 13.
Stop and ball with Iron here through the last sector.
George. But Iron looks like he's going to secure this as long as the car doesn't start coughing at him.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
gets to the line.
Been in control all race weekend. Looked insurmountable, but we did have Adam Shack pose a good fight against him on the different strategy. Iron takes the flag for P1 in the first round in Bahrain. Adam Jack, very unconventional finish. Mercedes will not be thanking him for that. Luke Mills is just able to stay ahead of Lucas Bausch. Lucas Bausch is out of fuel!
Lucas has done a Johnny.
Made it to the line anyway.
He holds P4.
Heinen P5, aiming for the crash Mercedes. Doesn't able to take him out, however.
Good run by Owen there to get up to P5.
So Kyron overtakes...
Kyron Chef is going to jump Ken on penalties to take P6. Ken is
Johnny crawling across the line. Holds the P9, of course. Quill actually got very close. Within a second of Johnny.
Wow.
Johnny did completely run out of fuel. He went to low fuel mode there.
Johnny lost so much time. Yeah, so Imchaz is going to take P8, so Alpine do get some points out of this after both DNFing in the sprint race.
See if Liam's able to get the final lap. Final lap, fastest lap. This is his final lap regardless.
Johnny
Ran out of battery for it.
Well, 10th.
Nope.
And Liam not quite managing to steal that fastest lap at the end, which is going to go to George Parr. Liam with a 30.3. George had a 29.7.
Good grief.
So very, very quick there for the Aston Martin. So that is going to give him that point despite finishing in P17.
Give something to fight for everybody, especially if you're not having the most ideal race.
Yeah, so our champions from last season, Luke Mills finishes P3, and Hugo Nilsson moving up into F1 finishes P17. So, if you just bear with me 1 second, I will see if any of our top 3 want to have some interviews.
I'm not sure about you. I'm not sure if your game is doing the loading screen stuff as well, but I can't get a race director. Oh no, it's the podium. Right. I forgot podiums exist. Wow, okay.
I don't know if that's representative of the game or you're driving.
Wow. I'll have you know I've scored 1 podium on this game and I'm very proud of it. Things that happen at Baku if you don't get knocked on the side of your car.
Oh no, didn't you do that and get a podium last season anyway?
Oh,
just like 2 wheels and 1 podium. But yeah,
suboptimal.
So somebody in the chat. Hi, Luke.
Hello,
yes,
hello.
Of course, we need the others to... Okay, so I'm going to grab Ian and Jacob and drag them down here as well. Do you want to just check the permissions for the channel, Luke, just to make sure they can talk in here? Because I'm not sure it will allow them to. We'll find out.
We'll find out, yeah.
Before I get them in, because otherwise I'm going to have to boot them out and drag them in again.
I'm having a look at it.
Cool. It's not scrolling. Stop giving me unreads, because then it won't scroll.
Alright.
Fuck.
F1. They can't view the channel and they can't do anything in it, but they can.
And they talk.
They can connect, speak, video, whatever they want.
Wow. Just noticed the top 4 finishers in the race are pretty much as they were in the sprint. Top 4 sprint finishers are the top 4 race finishers. Ian Bilbus getting a full 33 points this race weekend. Everything but the fastest lap. Pretty good.
Hello to our podium finishers for round 1 of F1. Ian, Jacob and Luke. So we will begin with Ian. Great race between you and Jacob. First race as a full-time driver in GRS. First win. How do you feel?
Yeah, it was a nice race, to be honest. It was quite close in the end with Jacob. And also when I had to overtake the back markers who still had to pit, I was like, go out of the way, get out of the way, because he's coming. But luckily, I just got it.
So, with mega undercut, I think the gap went to about 3.8 seconds. Some big laps you managed to put in there in the on the mediums.
It was the undercut was actually 5.2 seconds.
In the middle of the race, I was noticing, okay, he doesn't pit, so he's going for the soft. So I decided to go earlier to get a bigger gap at the beginning.
Yeah, the softs were pretty quick, but you just about managed to hold on there. So we'll have to wait and see if anyone reports either of you for anything. But hopefully that kind of battle continues for the rest of the season. So move on to Jacob P2. Great race, great strategy. Is that what you decided to do from the start, or did you notice that with Iron on the hards, it was probably your best chance of winning if you managed to extend those mediums out and bolt the softs on at the end?
To be fair, I just didn't have too much practice today as I came late home. But yeah, it was fun. I messed up my quality, unfortunately, so it gave Aryan the pole position. But it is what it is. He was fast today, so he deserved it. Then the sprint. My starts today were just something else. I don't even have an excuse, It was just like, okay, on the sprint, I almost went back to P5, and in the race, I went back to P4. I mean, yeah, I'll have to work on that. But strategy, I was actually gonna go medium hard, but yeah, in the middle of the race, I was like, fuck it, let's have some fun. So yeah, medium to soft. Doable.
It is good if you can do it. Yeah, it's a little tricky on Taiwan. You need the right setup and the right driving style to make that work. But
yeah,
if you can make it work, it pays dividends.
True. If I hadn't lost I think I've lost my car while chasing Aryan on the source, maybe 5 times, maybe less, something around that though. So maybe without mistakes I would have been in a DRS, we would have had a fight, but still, he was just consistent on this mediums so it was just deserved win, to be fair, kinda.
It was a great race from both of you, and hopefully we will see many repeats and a chance for you to take your first win and redeem yourself a little in China next week.
I have to say, I'm intimidated to hear Jacob say that was maybe not the best race weekend with not the most amount of practice put in, and to have put in a stellar performance for P2 and a very good sprint performance as well. I'm very much looking forward to see how the next few races go.
It's going to be fun.
Well, anytime a Mercedes wins, it's fine with me. And speaking of Mercedes and winning, Luke, our champion last season in the Mercedes team, moved to Williams for this year. Started last season with a win, started this season with a podium. Do you think we're going to see a repeat of last season's success?
No chance. Not a chance. That podium was definitely quite lucky. I mean, P4 was definitely, I'd say, regardless of what happened, I would have finished P4. However, Lucas disconnected early on, which cost him 2 seconds of time, or 3 seconds even. It was about 2 or 3. And if he hadn't have had that, he would have been able to clear the back markers earlier, and I wouldn't have had a chance. But, sometimes that's just how things go, and, well, I took my opportunity. And, yeah, but the pace in the race was not ideal. However, I realised I was getting much quicker at the end of the hard stint. That's just something I normally do on worn tyres. I just randomly start going much quicker, but yeah, it's alright though. I'll take a podium out of it.
Well, sometimes you don't need to be the quickest driver to win the championship. Just picking up consistent points and hope the guys that are quicker than you have catastrophes.
Yeah, I have experience with that.
That's my strategy anyway. But well, it's a pretty good result for all three teams. I know Johnny had some mishaps with a pretty sus penalty in the sprint, but possibly Williams in for the constructors, with Ferrari and Mercedes' second drivers having, I'd say, bigger problems than Johnny suffered. So potentially you can take a constructors title that was stolen from you last season. But there were some great fights up and down the grid, as we were expecting. When we saw the sign-ups, when we saw the time trial times, we saw the entire grid was extremely close. There was, for those of you who choose to go back and watch the stream, there was about a 15-lap fight between Jelly and Liam, which was pretty epic to watch, I have to say. And hopefully we'll see more battles like that up and down the grid, as well as at the front. So once again, congratulations to our podium finishers, and I think that is a good time to end the stream, because it has been, once again, over 2 hours. This weekend has been quite long between sprint racing and red flags. So thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. Remember to subscribe to the GRS channel, where we go live every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday with F3, F2 and F1 respectively, and see more pretty crazy F1 racing. We are in China next week, so that long back straight could see some explosive action. Plus, with how much our drivers like to go side by side here at Bahrain, they may do so in the middle sector in China as well.
I don't think we'll have to wait until the middle sector. We're seeing it turn one.
Well, that's true. That's also very likely. There could be some very, very big crashes at turn one if people aren't completely
There's going to be a
aware
missile torpedo somewhere.
Yeah. And also remember to check out our social medias. We have a Twitter guru tweeting on there for us in Hugo Nilsson. And we will see you all, hopefully, next week.